Cover story tonight, Pakistan is on the boil. The trigger is a blasphemy case. The protagonist is a Christian woman, Asia Bibi. She spent 9 years in jail on death row. Yesterday, the Supreme Court of Pakistan acquitted her, sending hardliners in a tizzy in that country. Tension is running high across Pakistan. Protesters took to the streets for the second day today. They're demanding that Asia Bibi be hanged. The situation is particularly tense in the city of Karachi after Prime Minister Imran Khan warned the protesters last night. The student body of a right-wing party took out a protest march in Karachi. They blocked roads. They chanted slogans against Asia Bibi. They want the death sentence to be carried out.
We see that there is pressure from Britain, America and the IMF. And our government, judiciary, can't bear this pressure. Look, this is the matter of the honor of our beloved Prophet. It must not be looked at on technical grounds.
The capital city of Islamabad also witnessed massive protests. More than 1,000 Islamists blocked the key highway that connects Islamabad to Rawalpindi. These are twin cities. Several citizens were forced to walk from one city to another. The protesters were angry with Prime Minister Imran Khan, who has backed the acquittal of Asia Bibi.
When you are a Prime Minister, you should give a statement with some responsibility. I don't think Imran Khan's speech last night was a responsible one. He was threatening us. I think he behaves like a child.
In an address to the nation, Imran Khan attacked the hardliners, warning them against any protests. The verdict from the Supreme Court of Pakistan triggered demonstrations beyond the capital. Karachi, Lahore, Peshawar, Multan are among the cities that have been affected. A leader of a hardline party, the Tehreek-e-Labbaik, even called for the death of the 3 judges behind this verdict. Today, the Chief Justice of Pakistan, Saqib Nisar, commented on the growing tension. He said, and I quote, "How can someone be punished when there is no ground to build a case against them?" Considering the sensitivity of this case and the risk of a violent reaction to it, it took the same man, Chief Justice Saqib Nisar, less than a minute yesterday to pronounce the judgment. Today, he was forced to justify that order. Prime Minister Imran Khan, meanwhile, has warned the hardliners to not confront the state.
मैं आपको ये अपील करता हूं कि इस मुल्क की खातिर जो कि मुश्किल बुरात से निकल रहा है और अल्लाह का शुक्र है आगे अच्छा वक्त आ रहा है, आप अपनी सियासत चमकाने के लिए, अपने वोट बैंक के लिए इस मुल्क को नुकसान ना पहुंचाएं। अगर आप ये करेंगे, मैं आपको ये वाज़ेह कर दूं कि रियासत अपनी जिम्मेदारी पूरी करेगी।
The Prime Minister is facing a backlash for those words. Some say it's well deserved. For one, Imran Khan himself made a career out of crippling protests. Those were against corruption in Pakistan, but he made sure that he brought the administration to its knees. Now he's urging others to refrain from doing the same. The second reason is that he has publicly and repeatedly endorsed the blasphemy law of Pakistan, strengthening the case of these protesters that he is facing today.
आज अपनी आवाम सबसे ये कहना चाहता हूं, किसी सूरत आपने इनको आपको उकसाने नहीं देना। ये कोई इस्लाम की खिदमत नहीं हो रही, ये मुल्क से दुश्मनी हो रही है। ये मुल्क दुश्मन अनासर इस तरह की बातें करते हैं कि जजेस को कत्ल कर दो और फौज में बगावत हो जाए।
He said this during, he in fact supported the blasphemy law during the election campaign a few months ago. Now those words have come back to bite him. But it's not just the Prime Minister of Pakistan who is in the line of fire. The army chief too is being targeted over this verdict. A member of the Tehreek-e-Labbaik called on members of the army to revolt against their leaders if they back the acquittal of Asia Bibi. These protesters targeted General Qamar Javed Bajwa, Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff, calling into question his religious affiliation. They say that General Bajwa belongs to the minority Ahmadi Muslim community and is therefore unfit to hold the post of the Army Chief of Pakistan. We can tell you that this is not the first time that fundamentalists have brought Pakistan to a standstill in this manner. Almost a year ago, there were clashes between hardliners and the police after Law Minister Zahid Hamid left out one reference to the Prophet Muhammad in his oath. They accused him of blasphemy. They paralyzed the capital city of Islamabad. At least 6 people are believed to have been killed in those protests and clashes. The protests continued for weeks on end and spread from Islamabad to Lahore, Peshawar and Karachi. Ultimately, it was the law minister who had to bow to the wishes of the protesters and resign. It remains to be seen who will blink first this time. Ahead of this visit, Imran Khan gave an interview to a Chinese news agency, showering praises on the country's leadership. Of course he was. Imran Khan said that the people of Pakistan look up to China, and he believes that China's model can help his country, Pakistan, fight poverty and corruption.
Pakistan, a country that has enormous potential, but unfortunately through mismanagement, we have not really achieved that potential. Through poor governance, corruption being one of the main reasons. Corruption is always a reason which stops a country from achieving its potential. And now we have a lot to learn from China. Because China went through a lot of problems which we face right now. China too had a lot of corruption. China had a lot of poverty. But the way China has dealt with both corruption as well as reducing poverty has been an example for not just Pakistan, but actually for a lot of the developing world. And we can learn more from China because China has recently developed, as opposed to the Western economies which have been developed, for a long time. I mean, they're way ahead of us. Recently, with the CPEC, it has given a great opportunity for Pakistan to bring in foreign investment, to get out of the difficult economic situation which we are in. We feel that this is a great opportunity. When we talk about Pakistan-Chinese relationship, it's the oldest relationship between Pakistan with any other country. China is the oldest relationship. And since I'm almost as old as Pakistan, I know how the relationship has evolved. So if there's one relationship which people of Pakistan have always felt that in our times of need, we can depend on one country, China has always been that country. So we have a very special relationship with China. The people of Pakistan have always looked upon China very positively as a friend.
The latest on the constitutional crisis in Sri Lanka. Exactly a week after he sacked the Prime Minister and dismissed his government, President Maithripala Sirisena has reconvened Parliament on the 5th of November. That's Monday. This is a climb down, some say, by the President, who plunged the country into turmoil by sacking Ranil Wickremesinghe and naming former President Mahinda Rajapaksa as the Prime Minister. November 5th is when the budget was to be presented in Sri Lanka, but then Sirisena announced Wickremesinghe's sacking and suspended Parliament till the 16th of November. On Wednesday, President Sirisena met Speaker Karu Jayasuriya and gave him an assurance that he may, after all, consider calling an early session of Parliament. Former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has welcomed this move. He tweeted, and I quote, "The people's voices have been heard. Parliament will be reconvened on the 5th of November. Democracy will prevail." Despite the dispute over the legality of his appointment, Mahinda Rajapaksa continued to consolidate power. He has assumed the finance minister's duties, and officials said that he was expected to begin work on the budget very soon. Ousted Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, meanwhile, remains holed up in the Prime Minister's official residence at Temple Tree in Colombo. He's not stepping down, he says. The international community is worried about political tension sparking violence in the island nation. The speaker warned of a quote-unquote bloodbath. Sri Lanka is also a tourist hub. The US, the UK, Canada and Australia have all issued travel advisories to their citizens. And as we track the story, we're also speaking to the newsmakers there, the people who have a lot at stake in the Sri Lankan power struggle. This is a Wion exclusive. Earlier today, we spoke to Namal Rajapaksa, the son of Sri Lanka's appointed Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Namal himself is a member of Parliament. We asked him about the constitutional crisis in his country, how the change of guard in Sri Lanka will affect ties with India, and most importantly, does his father have the numbers to survive a floor test next week? Good evening, Namal. Thank you very much for being with us. The question that we've been asking here is, does Sri Lanka have a legitimate Prime Minister now? Does it have two?
Well, President Sirisena has taken his decision according to the Constitution. So he has acted upon the rights the President has in the Constitution. So it is a legitimate appointment, and President Rajapaksa is a legitimate Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. And he has already taken his office and started work. The cabinet is coming in swearing in yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So already the Speaker himself has accepted President Rajapaksa as the Prime Minister and to allocate the Parliament seat that is there for the Prime Minister. So it is all these are more than enough valid reasons for people to believe that he is a legitimate Prime Minister.
Amal, I have two sets of reports in front of me right now. One is an old report which quotes you as saying that India's influence in Sri Lankan elections cannot be ignored. India is important in regional politics. We cannot ignore India's influence. The second report says that in the past 48 hours, former Sri Lankan President Mahinda Rajapaksa has sent feelers to meet Indian officials, and New Delhi has so far decided to not intervene. Can you confirm either of these? Have you tried to reach out to New Delhi? What is Mr. Rajapaksa's position going to be vis-a-vis India if he is indeed confirmed as the Prime Minister?
Well, I think the second question should be asked by the Foreign Ministry, because the Foreign Ministry is not in a state. So it's up to the Foreign Ministry and the Foreign Minister to decide on which state, on what are the official and state official visits that the Prime Minister is going to visit. But yes, of course, Indian influence in the region is very important, and the coexistence, the relationship between India and the region is something that we were always interested in. And India has to play a bigger role when it comes to our region development and to uplift the lives and to do infrastructure projects in the region that we always believe. And I know during my father's government, before 2015, there was a misperception or misinterpretation of his policies. But we want to think about the future, not about the past. So we want to put things right. So we will always stand by our policy on non-aligned. So we will always be non-aligned, and we invite all the investors to come and invest. And Sri Lankan-India relationship has always been strong, robust, and resilient. And we will always make sure that robust and resilient relationship continues.
I think non-alliance will be easier said than done. You cannot be non-aligned when you have so much of Chinese money flowing into Sri Lanka. China has virtually endorsed Mr. Rajapaksa as the new Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, one of the first to do so after what we saw on Friday. So is the policy vis-a-vis China also going to see some change?
No, we will always have a friendly relationship with all our countries. That's why we believe in non-aligned policy. We have economic partners. We do have economic partners. And if you look at the Indian economy, how much Chinese money has invested in India, it's huge. So economic partners are there. You can't ask a country to stop your economic partners and stop your economic development in your country. No, we can't do that. We need to invite all the nations that are willing to invest in Sri Lanka to come and invest. We are more than welcome for any sort of investments from India to come in. In fact, my father, I must remind you of this, my father offered Hambantota Port to India first. Mattala Airport to India. Since it never took place, to go from ground, we have to go to China. But our relationship with the world is based on non-aligned policy. So India, Sri Lanka has a special place. We have been the neighbors for a long time, and we do have a very strong political, social, and cultural background. Our cultures are similar. So there is nothing for India to worry about any sort of investment coming into Sri Lanka, because my father has always been very clear that he will not use or allow Sri Lankan water, air or sea to be used against any of our neighboring countries.
Search teams in Indonesia have located the black box of the Boeing 737 MAX plane that plunged into the Java Sea. For 3 days, 1,000 divers have been involved in recovering the debris of the crashed Lion Air flight. Belongings of passengers on board, including their shoes and bags, were found along with the wreckage of the plane. America is gearing up for polls. Tuesday, the 6th of November, is when Americans will vote in what is being called the midterm election. But what is this election for? If you're wondering how electoral democracy works in the US, the next report explains it for you.
Voting. The people's chance to decide who they want to run their country and represent their interests. But how does it work in the United States of America? The United States Congress has two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. In the US, the President is both the head of state and the head of government. The House of Representatives in the US Congress is designed to give a voice to the people of every local voting region of America. Members of the House of Representatives stand for re-election every 2 years. Each state is split into districts, and each district votes for one representative. The number of districts depends on the population of each state. For example, California, the most populous state, is split into 53 districts, so has 53 representatives. But Alaska, which is huge but has a really small population, only has one district and therefore only one representative in the House. The ideal situation for a president is that the House is controlled by their own party. However, with elections held every 2 years, there's always a midterm election in the middle of a president's time in office. If the public thinks that the president's not doing a great job, they can vote in more members of the opposition party, making it more difficult for the president to pass laws. The Senate in the US Congress is sometimes called the upper house. George Washington described the Senate as the saucer that cools the coffee, meaning that it's their job to scrutinize and question all proposals made by both the House of Representatives and the President, before voting to decide whether they should proceed as law. Senators, like members of the House of Representatives, are also elected to their seats by the public. Senators serve 6-year terms, and elections are staggered, so every 2 years, a third of the senators run for re-election. Each state is represented by 2 senators, regardless of its population. And again, the first-past-the-post voting system is used, so the candidate with the most votes wins. So that's how things work in the US.